Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're taking a really hard, detailed look at the fine print of renting. We are going to dissect exactly how a signed lease can cross the line from a standard, mutually beneficial agreement right into a weapon of financial exploitation. So, let's just dive straight into this. Seriously, what happens when the very document meant to protect your living situation is actually designed to drain your wallet and just completely ignore your physical safety? Today, we're unpacking a specific, real-world Alberta tenancy case, a property located at 131 Amblefield Avenue Northwest. Framed as a legal critique for tenant advocacy, this case exposes some truly shocking discrepancies between aggressive landlord demands and real-world dangerous negligence. All right, here's our breakdown for today. First, the bait and switch. Next, we'll look at a heavily one-sided lease, then a systemic utility theft scheme, and finally, the shield of the law, how tenants can actually fight back. Let's get right to it. First up, the bait and switch. The advertised promise versus the gritty reality. Let's look at the hook that brought these tenants in compared to the grim, unfinished reality they actually got stuck with. So the initial advertisement promised this beautiful, completed premium home. We're talking nice front grass, a big open backyard, and a highly anticipated back deck. But the reality? For 2 full years, these tenants were forced to live in a perpetual, muddy construction zone. The front grass wasn't even laid down until November of their second year. The backyard was just a total mess of dirt and materials, and that promised deck, completely missing. And this brings us to the absolute most dangerous part of this bait and switch, the number 7. You see, because that deck was never actually built, the back door of this upper floor unit opened directly out into a terrifying, code-violating 7-foot drop. I mean, it was completely unusable as an emergency exit. It violently violated basic municipal safety codes and fire egress requirements. You were essentially trapped on the second floor. Now, you might be wondering, how on earth did the landlord legally justify leaving a hazard like that for years? Well, by hiding behind a carefully crafted contract loophole. Right there in the lease agreement, under Clause 19, the property management explicitly stated, "The property is brand new and lots of the work will be done according to the builder's schedule." They absolutely weaponized this vague phrase to dodge any hard deadlines or accountability for the property's exterior, just leaving that severe 7-foot safety hazard totally unaddressed for 24 months. But wait, it actually gets worse. You can't make this stuff up. When it came time for the second-year lease renewal, the landlord explicitly put in writing that the tenants should, quote, "stop asking about the deck." It's absolutely wild. It serves as undeniable written proof, an admission, really, that the landlord was fully aware of the 7-foot drop, actively chose to ignore it, and tried to legally bully the upstairs tenants into silence. Moving on to part 2, a heavily one-sided lease agreement and the massive burden of this contract. When we actually pull up and examine the sheer weights of the contractual obligations in the official preferred property management lease agreement, the imbalance becomes undeniable. From a tenant advocacy standpoint, reading this fine print shows exactly how these heavily unbalanced rules completely steamroll standard renting norms. The obligations piled onto the upstairs renters are, frankly, staggering. They are mandated to handle all the snow removal on patios and sidewalks, constantly swap out furnace, HRV, and fridge filters throughout the year, fix any clogged plumbing all by themselves, and even foot the bill for professional carpet steam cleaning when they move out. Imagine paying over $2,300 a month in rent, only to realize your lease reads way more like the job description for an unpaid full-time property manager. And what if the tenant doesn't perfectly execute all these chores? Well, the lease states that if the landlord has to bring in outside contractors to fix issues deemed the tenant's fault, the tenant is forced to pay the full cost of the repair, plus an extra 15% administration fee directly to the management company. It's literally a built-in financial penalty designed to extract even more capital from the renter. Okay, now contrast those crazy, strict tenant duties with the landlord's own obligations, or, well, total lack thereof. The lease contains these sweeping zero liability clauses protecting the owner. The landlord legally washes their hands of almost all liability for property damage caused by steam, water leaks, or even electrical wiring issues. And if a major appliance breaks down, they explicitly state they are not responsible for providing any alternate accommodation. It is a masterclass in a completely lopsided one-way contract. Part 3. The utility theft scheme, or as I like to call it, financing a flip with tenant power. So, the exploitation at Amblefield Avenue didn't just stop at a missing deck and extreme chores. It targeted the tenants' bank accounts directly. building into this egregious financial breach over time. In month 1, the upstairs tenants move in, responsible for all utilities. Standard stuff, right? But during the freezing Calgary winter, the landlord secretly siphons their power and heat to renovate the unrented basement suite. By month 7, a new downstairs tenant moves in, but the upstairs tenants are still footing the bill for the whole house. This whole scheme really hinges on the number 6. For 6 grueling winter months, the landlord used the upstairs tenants' electricity and gas to blast a second basement furnace on high. To make matters worse, they left the basement windows wide open over the weekends just to easily pass construction materials in and out. Think about your own heating bills in the dead of winter for a second. Now imagine being forced to pay to heat an open-air construction zone so the landlord can finance a property flip using your utility meter. And it actually escalated into a full-blown double-dipping operation. The landlord told the new downstairs tenant that their rent had utilities included, which of course allowed the property manager to charge a much higher rent premium for the basement. Meanwhile, the upstairs tenants were forced to pay the entire property's utility bill without a single dime of compensation. The landlord effectively pocketed the downstairs utility money as pure profit, while forcing the upstairs victims to subsidize the entire building's overhead. Finally, Part 4. The Shield of the Law. How the Alberta RTA comes to the rescue. Fortunately, standard residential tenancy protections provide a massive, unbreakable shield against this exact kind of weaponized lease. Under the Alberta Residential Tenancies Act, there's a fundamental rule. Illegal lease clauses are automatically void. A landlord absolutely cannot write a clause that waives a tenant's legal rights or removes their own legal obligation to maintain a safe, habitable property. They just can't legally contract their way out of basic building codes. Writing "stop asking about the deck" in a lease doesn't magically make a 7-foot drop legal. It just makes the landlord look incredibly, undeniably negligent in the eyes of the law. So if you or someone you advocate for ever gets trapped in a mess like this, you've got 3 really powerful avenues to fight back. Step 1. Call municipal bylaw enforcement, like Calgary 311. They can issue a rapid remedial order for immediate safety violations, like that 7-foot drop. Step 2. Contact public health if you suspect the basement suite is an illegal, unpermitted build, which, let's be honest, frequently happens when renovations are powered off the books. And Step 3, file a claim with the Residential Tenancy Dispute Resolution Service, the RTDRS, for a massive retroactive rent abatement and utility fraud. And hey, remember this absolutely vital piece of info? In Alberta, a formal, signed piece of paper isn't the only thing that counts. Even broken verbal promises, text messages about utility splits, or a trail of emails acknowledging a problem, all of that serves as a legally binding agreement. The written and implied track record always serves as evidence to protect the tenant. So, I'm going to leave you with this final, provocative thought to take away from our explainer today. If a legal document explicitly commands you to ignore a glaring, literally life-threatening safety hazard while simultaneously draining your wallet to fund the landlord's side projects, whose interest is that contract truly serving? It certainly isn't yours. Thanks for joining me to dissect this case today, and stay informed out there.